Did you know that loneliness has the same impact on mortality as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, making it even deadlier than obesity? And it does the following. It makes cancer deadlier, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's worse, and advance faster, our immune system, and if it becomes chronic, it can become self-sustaining. And the chances of it becoming self-sustaining increases if we also have unhealed childhood trauma. So, do you feel profoundly lonely? 2019 studies show absolutely shocking rates of loneliness in North America, with Gen Zs and Millennials leading the pack. 79% and 71% feeling lonely frequently or all of the time. That's devastating. But what if I told you there's an exercise that you can do that could decrease your feelings of loneliness substantially? It can be done, and I really want to show you, so watch until the end. After we have a little bit of a conversation about loneliness, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that people don't know, there's misconceptions, stuff that I was totally blown away by, to find out how to put these things, this exercise, into practice to increase your feelings of connection and healing.
Potty, she talking naughty, here to help your trouble, she don't judge nobody. Even if you're not at your top and it's a lie, she try to make you see a different train of thought.
Welcome back to my channel. I am the Pottymouth Guru, your friendly East Coast therapist, where my mission is to help you learn how to unfuck yourself so that you can become the architects of your own lives and your own minds and live your very best one. So many people are struggling with loneliness. It's an epidemic right now, actually. Outside of the loneliness associated to social media and the fact that we are living in this collective global fucking trauma right now that's having absolutely profound effects on people's mental health. If we have unhealed trauma on top of all that motherfucking shit, these feelings of loneliness end up being exacerbated to like some next level shit. Now, to clarify, loneliness and being alone are two very different things. You can be surrounded with people around your friends at parties, hanging out and doing the things that you do and still feel lonely. The bottom line is, if you feel lonely, you are lonely. So let's break some shit down. First, there are some misconceptions about loneliness. Some think that lonely people are just people who don't really know how to talk to people very well, who aren't very good in social situations, that are just like shy. But the data actually shows that social skills have absolutely nothing to do with loneliness rates and social connection. And it doesn't actually matter if you're rich or famous or gorgeous or powerful or any of that shit. None of that protects you against loneliness. Everybody in the world is susceptible to loneliness. Here is why. Let's look at what loneliness actually is. Loneliness is a biological function. Whoa! Bet you didn't know that. I sure motherfucker didn't. I had no motherfucking idea until I did this research. This function makes us pay attention to our social connection needs, just like feeling sleepy makes you pay attention to your bodily needs. Now, your brain cares about your social needs because millions of years ago, it indicated your likelihood for survival. Collaboration and connection take the natural selection win! So as a result, our brains became wired to detect what people were feeling or thinking in order to sustain social connections. So being social naturally became part of our biology. Our biggest survival threat wasn't actually that cougar that was waiting behind the bushes to jump out and motherfucking eat us while we're picking berries. It was actually being excluded from your group for not understanding or demonstrating the social norms of that group. So our bodies adapted to this rejection by coming up with social pain to warn us to stop displaying these behaviors that would isolate us, thus killing us. In comes childhood trauma. Childhood trauma ultimately causes injury to our ability to connect to other people. People with childhood trauma never had the experience of being properly loved, supported, emotionally regulated, in order to prepare and guide us to enter the complex matrix of human relationships. The feeling of belonging and having love in our lives is actually essential to our happiness, our longevity, and even sometimes our survival. Having unhealed childhood trauma or CPTSD can deeply impact this essential need that we have for connection because it fucks with our ability to have that connection. Shit that's pretty easy for most people, like have a connection with a friend, functioning in group settings, recovering from conflict, and just feeling like we belong might not be available to us. Because we now know that abuse and neglect changes our brains. Where some feelings of loneliness are totally normal and are experienced by everybody, people with childhood trauma and CPTSD end up being completely taken over by it. We're fucking hijacked. And it causes all sorts of dysregulation in our brains and with our emotions as a result. What does it mean to be dysregulated? I shall tell you. It's when our behavior and the way that we think and our heart rate become erratic. Think panic attacks and depression and anxiety, sudden explosions of emotion that flood our system with adrenaline. And that is like straight from that fight or flight reaction. And on the flip side, it can look like being numb and dissociating, being forgetful or scattered. And as a result of all that shit, it makes it hard to read nonverbal cues or express our feelings in appropriate ways that don't end up pushing people away. It actually prevents us from finding people that are good for us to be in relationship with and successfully interact with. And it messes with our abilities to detect red motherfucking flags, to avoid people who we absolutely should not let into our lives. So we end up with this huge capacity to love, but without the ability to form healthy, functional, and loving relationships. This is some of the most impactful carnage left in the wake of childhood trauma. Unpopular opinion! So if you have these ideas about like winging it, playing it by ear, hoping it'll just go away if you forget about it, waiting for the right person to show up and fix all your shit and everything will miraculously disappear, I hate to motherfucking break it to you, but I don't think you're gonna get very good results with that. I don't really see success in the future of that. We have to be conscious and intentional about this work if we're to heal, because the dysregulation fucks with our connections. It strains them, it puts like pressure on them, and sometimes it even breaks them. I think anybody with childhood trauma knows all the motherfuck about this. So what do? We focus on re-regulation, learning how to self-regulate so that we can grow and heal and maintain our connections, rather than trying to like change a person, run from them, end up fucking hating them, or like attaching to them in like unhealthy ways, like clingy. So we have to shift the focus to ourselves. It's about noticing, describing, and learning how to calm our triggers. It's choosing to do something different. Because I gotta ask you, the way you're functioning right now, how's that working out for you? That's my favorite Dr. Phil question. Now, the moment you have all been fucking waiting for, how to do this work. Here is an inner child and parenting technique that I use on myself all the time, and I teach this to clients. It's to self-soothe when you're triggered, that I find, and many of my clients find, super effective. This is a 3-step process that will help you regulate yourself by becoming aware when you're triggered, figuring out what exactly you're feeling, and giving yourself permission to feel it, whatever it is that comes up, and then figuring out what your needs are and learning how to meet them. The idea is that you're giving yourself what you might have never had when you were a child and you like really fucking needed it. It looks like this. Step 1, when you feel a blast of emotion, it can be over something big or small, like finding out some bad news or just being annoyed with something that your partner does. What we want to do is leave the situation and find a quiet place where we can be alone. It might be your bedroom, it might be your car. Step 2, put your hand on your heart and ask yourself exactly what it is that you're feeling. Is it sadness? Is it anger? Is it frustration? Overwhelm? It might not come up right away, or it might not be clear. It might just be like a mishmash of feelings. That's okay. Whatever is happening in that moment, the goal is to give yourself permission to feel it. Many people learned along the way, fucking somewhere, that it's not safe to feel our feelings, to even have them. Expressing them wasn't safe. So we learn how to push it down and put that shit in a motherfucking bottle, and we end up emotionally constipated. And that emotion is gonna find its way out one way or the fuck the other. It could be through expressing it, or it could find its way out through illness later on. Thank to the fuck, there is finally so much research coming out right now, peer-reviewed, about trauma being the base point for physical illness. I will include some links for you down in the description box. So, better out than in, like food poisoning. Would you hold your fucking vomit in? No. You're gonna get it out. And then let whatever comes, come. Give yourself permission to feel it and allow yourself to release any kind of shame that might be surrounding this idea of feeling feelings and expressing them. Find some self-compassion with what you're feeling, just as you would with a child, with your child or someone's child. And essentially, it's with your inner child. Would you fucking get mad at a kid for crying, being like, fuck you, don't cry, you little shit? No. And if you do, something to visit. This is ultimately for your inner child that's still very much the fuck alive in you to feel okay, to just feel whatever shit they're feeling. Step 3, after whatever feelings come through, move through you, it's about asking yourself what you need. This is the time to self-soothe. And you can just ask. Maybe you feel like you want to be held. Here's the way you can do this on your own. One hand, you put it under your armpit, the other hand on your shoulder like this, and you just breathe and just let yourself be held. Maybe you need to have a nap, or you need something nourishing to eat. Maybe you need to be creative. You might not have an answer, and that's okay too. The point is that you're asking. Some ideas are cuddling with your pets, gentle restorative yoga, or actually any kind of yoga, a bath, resting underneath a weighted blanket, listening to music, meditation, calling a good friend. Doing things like this will release good, happy feeling hormone like dopamine and oxytocin, which studies show actually increase the feelings of trust and safety, what many people with childhood trauma were deprived of when they were young. Now, it is totally okay if you feel fucking weird doing this shit. It's new. So it's okay if you feel uncomfortable, confusing, or emotional. This is not about getting it right. It's about starting to connect with the neglected parts of ourselves and creating a safe environment to express feelings and learning how to self-soothe. We want to take ourselves out of fight or flight and let the rest and digest state, which is our parasympathetic nervous system, kick in. We want to activate that shit so that it can do what it's meant to do, which is calm us the motherfuck down and let us heal. Cool thing, there is a whole bunch of new data that is emerging right now that shows connection with others is actually one of the most powerful tools that we have to heal trauma. So not just our bodies, not just our feelings and mental health, our actual trauma. By way of telomeres, which are the little caps, like the plastic end of a shoelace, on the end of the strands of our DNA, which are the chromosomes. And these little caps protect us from disease and they slow aging. And now we know that they can heal trauma. Now, there are many ways to help you build connections with yourself and with others. There are tangible ways to heal. This is just one example, but it takes making a decision, commitment, and consistency, and things like patience and self-compassion, and having reasonable expectations. Just know that you are totally gonna fall off the horse 850,000 million billion times. It's about getting back on that motherfucking horse and starting the healthy practices over again. Every day is a new chance to start over. Every hour is a chance to start over. It's gonna take time, guys, because these negative, abusive messages we have about ourselves are as old as we are. It's gonna take a little bit of motherfucking time to undo that shit. This is not a tomorrow thing. There are no quick fixes. But as you keep doing this work, as you start building trust with yourself, you are going to build trust with yourself and trust with others. You reap what you sow. You absolutely can form healthy connections with others and develop healthy, loving relationships. I absolutely 100% believe in you, even if you don't yet. And the reason why is because I was that person. I come from childhood trauma. I sucked at connections, and I'm so much better now. I myself as a human being am proof that this shit is possible. So here's what I want. I want you to motherfucking comment below. Fuck yeah. If you're ready to start building connection and trust with yourself. Woo! And if you're not, I want you to tell me why. Let's talk through that shit. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching this video about loneliness. I hope you have some more information on it. I hope you have some hope. I hope you have a new little tool in your tool belt. If you found this information valuable, share it with a friend. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And tell yourself you love yourself right now. That is all. Thank you for coming. See you next week for more things about healing things. Happy day.